We have good news and bad news from Ireland regarding hate speech legislation, and I think that this shows very well, even to people who are not particularly informed and are beginning to be informed about current affairs, what is actually going on in the Western world. I think it's a really good case study. Right, so good news is that the hate speech legislation that passed doesn't contain some of the most problematic features of the hate speech bill that people are reacting against. And the part of the good news is that the backlash actually worked. The pressure of people against Irish politicians, also from platforms like Twitter and other politicians, also the pressure from politicians to the Irish government actually worked. So that's good news. The bad news, in a nutshell, is that they are not stopping. They will double down and they will attack the freedom of the Irish people, and they have already done so in ways that aren't particularly visible. So it's important to mention the good news, but also mention the bad news and why people should remain vigilant. Right. So we're talking about the infamous Criminal Justice Bill 2022, which is a sort of amendment to existing criminal damage bills. Right. So there are several bills in Ireland, and this bill is adding to them. Essentially, it adds provisions that have to do with hatred when it is an aggravated factor of particular crimes. And if we scroll down here, we will see that the very problematic bill has passed from the Dáil in April 2023, but it hasn't been passed by both houses. Last week, on the 23rd of October 2024, an amendment version was passed, and I will show you what it lacked. So this is the original bill, and if we scroll down, we will see that it has a part 2 called Prohibition of Incitement to Violence or Hatred, which had incredibly weird and bad and tyrannical, you could say, clauses. For instance, the mere possession of content that could be seen as hateful, and of course that's subjective, could be a criminal offense.
The memes on my phone.
Exactly, yeah, the memes on your phone, yeah. Right. So this has been shelved for the time being. And if you see the new version, it has 24 pages, it doesn't have 40, so they have slashed a lot from it. But there is something, so part 2 from the previous one doesn't exist. But if we go here on interpretation, we will see something that I think is essentially what it all boils down to. Yeah. Now, there's a funny aspect to it because it's ridiculous and you could say it's stupid, but also stupidity is sometimes incredibly dangerous. So if someone defined hatred as hatred against a person or a group of persons in the state, is this a good definition?
Well, I mean, it can't use itself in its own definition, but you could say, ill will or negative feelings towards a personal group of persons, but really, I'm not even in control of my own feelings now.
Exactly. So we are not told what hatred is. We are told who are the targets of hatred. And there are people with protected characteristics, and they're talking about gender, sex, religion. And if you go on gender, they'll say it's the traditional 2 genders, but also how people identify. But apart from this, it reminds me of someone here, someone people know. So Candy is giving a definition of racism. Let's play this video just to bear in mind who creates legislation and of the intellectual caliber.
Is really understanding the way racism operates. And so I actually define racism as a powerful collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequity and are substantiated by racist ideas.
Yeah, these are not good definitions. Just anyone who knows anything about this will tell you that, of course, it can't contain itself because then it's a never-ending semantic loop.
I mean, you did a series on the website that you should check out on critical race theory and the ideas that were leading up to people like Ibram X. Kendi to be able to go up on stages like that and spew absolute nonsense.
So this is absolute nonsense. He doesn't know what he's on about. And tell me, does this definition of hatred bear any similarity to what Candy just said?
It's obviously exactly the same, and it's the same
exactly
as when
the
they're trying
same.
to define woman and stuff like that. They've got no solid definition.
Yes, so we will go back to this because this is essentially a bomb in legislation, and we will unpack this very carefully and clearly so people understand what is going on. So we have here the Doyle-Pastor hate crime legislation, and it's 60% that voted for it, 40% that voted against it. Now, speaking of voting, we have US elections coming, and we have just a few days. We have less than a week. And we have
Tuesday.
We have really great merch.
No.
I
We
don't know.
don't. You have less than a week to get a hold of this fantastic merchandise, which so many other people have already bought. Do you want to miss out? Do you want to be walking down the street and see a man wearing a Trump 24 Art of the Grill t-shirt and think to yourself, damn, I missed out on that? No, you do not. So buy it now.
And look at this wonderful cup, this fight cup. And also this, the Art of the Grill. If we click on it, I think it's a good bargain. Look at him, a wholesome picture of Trump grilling. And also we have sizes, small, medium, large, extra large, XXL,
For the real
XXXL.
fatties in the audience right now.
Head on our merch store.
Just a reminder to our American friends, do make sure you vote, because I really don't have to have a Young Turk-style meltdown on the stream live. So just
Whenever you put it like that, there's a really mischievous part of me that says, I need the sped up footage of you.
Right.
I don't-
Back to the topic.
I don't want it to happen.
we have to win, guys. Okay, you have to go and vote.
Or Carl will become a soy jack.
Right. So back to a topic. As they say here in the Irish Times, new laws stalled in upper house after criticism by backbenchers, senators, free speech group, and also Elon Musk. So it worked. It actually had good effects. Yeah. But the problem is that this is a battle against good and evil that is ever ending.
Yeah, they're perennially going to want this. They'll
Exactly.
never stop trying to get this through. I mean, there's a reason it looks just like the British one as well. The British hate speech laws. I can't remember which one it is now.
Well, there's the Equality Act of 2010, which codified a lot of the protected characteristics. But again, like that was a bringing together of a lot of other previous laws.
Yes. Okay. So bad news now. We need to talk a bit about the bad news. Is that McEntee still wants to pass this, and she won't stop. That's number one. And also the other bit is that hatred is something that is incredibly subjective. So once you introduce it into legislation, you give an argument to the government to prosecute you if they don't have any argument against you.
Well, that's the entire point of this kind of legislation. It's been pointed out numerous times, hundreds of times, thousands of times, that the Equality Act, the protected characteristics, should reasonably, if taken straight from the legislation as written, also protect the rights and feelings of white, straight British men. It doesn't. It doesn't, because it's all about who is administering and applying those laws and their interpretations. So these kinds of bills are just there as an open blank check, an open invitation for administrators and bureaucrats to punish you.
Exactly. So we have here Helen McEntee. She says that essentially the definition of hatred is correct. She doubles down even on that definition. And she says that she will not stop fighting because she thinks that legislation has to renew itself and they have to put in those words. Now, the question here is, what are they trying to achieve? Now, to the naive,
The destruction of
what
Irish.
they're trying to achieve is just having a sort of society where people just respect each other emotions more. That's in the mind of naive people what the government is on about. But it's good if we peel through the onion of deception and start talking a bit about what is going there. So what I want to
It's a good metaphor. I don't see the
I
problem.
like that, the onion of deception. It's an ancient
Has many
relic
layers.
of esoteric power.
Yes.
it is. Yeah. I mean, onions have many layers.
Yeah.
They're
Is
deceived.
that going to be in Shrek 5?
Yeah. So basically what they want to do is they're a government and they're representatives of the state. They want to increase their power.
Yes.
Right? They want to increase their power. And they want to do so in ways that seem legitimate. So by introducing subjective elements into legislation and appealing to these laws, they can actually act entirely arbitrarily against the spirit of the laws, against the spirit of the rule of law, in the name of legitimacy. Because sadly, most people have the belief that if something is a law, then it's correct. And if the law says something about what people should do, then people should do it. Sadly, we see that people are very much conforming with lots of laws that are obviously tyrannical, and it's scary to think about it.
Yeah.
Right. So
the thing about this, though, this kind of law is essentially against the concept of judgment. How dare you make a judgment? All of these different things, because I mean, if you look at the categories, right? You've got you can't do it based on race. And so, okay, so what you're saying is like 90% or whatever Irish people aren't allowed to have judgments against the new people who have arrived, the minority of people.
Exactly.
So these things are morally equivalent. There's no difference between them. Again, the sex is, you're not allowed to have a judgment against someone who uses weirdo, wacko pronouns. All right, so 99% of people aren't allowed to have an opinion about the 1%.
Well, how are you supposed to be able to trust your judgment if it's not been outsourced to an expert institution?
Well, no, the problem is your judgment might not be the same as theirs, and therefore that's wrong, and that has to be stopped. It's hatred. You're not allowed it.
Thankfully, the experts have judged that you're a racist.
Yeah, thank
So,
you.
seeing as it's come from experts, we can trust it.
Yes, that's exactly it, because the government wants to appear as if they're immune to the abuse of power.
Yes.
Also, they want to present themselves as infallible judges of disinformation, and just take a look at the school books that are being taught. They
are genuinely stigmatizing the concept of people exercising their own judgment, because there may well be something wrong that happens at the end of it. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't have to be. It's not necessary.
It's punishing their enemies and rewarding their supporters.
Yeah, but
and
what they're trying to do is erase the concept of you having the ability to judge other people as being different.
Exactly.
So you could never end up discriminating.
Exactly. And that's how we see that the modern state is the anti-racist state.
Yeah.
And we see this in the UK, in England, in Wales, in Scotland, in Ireland. We see it everywhere. Yeah. And anti-racism now is, I think, the new form of totalitarianism. It's just as simple as that. It's just mind reading. We say you're a racist, and if we say you're a racist, automatically this gives a reason to the state to do anything they want against you. Now, but I think we need to analyze a bit about
beneath another layer
of the onion of deception. I think we should how they are punishing their enemies, because this is exactly what they're doing to the Irish people. What they're doing is essentially they're habituating them into not having an opinion. Yeah. They're habituating them into not criticizing the government, because automatically speaking, the government can appeal to the hate speech law, and they say any criticism of my points is hatred, and the modern state is an anti-hatred state, therefore we're going to crush you.
And the only reason they would need this is if they were planning on changing Ireland substantially, right? If Ireland wasn't going to change for the next 50 years, roughly compared to the previous 50 years, well, why would any of this be necessary? No, they know in advance they're going to pile in as many foreigners as possible. They're going to expand the number of genders there are, blah, 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 blah. We're going to set up loads of mosques. Things are going to radically change in Ireland. And what this is to make sure that you don't criticize it, you don't speak out of line, and you don't act or organize against it. That's what this is about. Exactly.
And they are against what they are calling racism and against what they're calling the far right. But infamous video here, Helen McEntee cannot define far right.
Obviously.
Cannot define far right.
She can't define hatred. She can't define racism.
So
she can't define woman.
Legislation is created by people who cannot define what they mean. And people may be tempted to say that they're stupid. Yeah, I think it's deliberate, because when you have so subjective legislation, they can hide arbitrary abuse of power under the cloak of legitimacy.
Yeah, it's not stupid. It's incredibly
clever.
And
also, they're making the Irish pay for the supporters of them.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's clever. I do agree that it's
brilliant.
It's evil. Well, it's incredibly transparent and obvious.
Yeah, but it's insanely Machiavellian.
It's not clever. It's just an overtly tyrannical use of power.
Yeah, but they're there, and we're here. They've totally outmaneuvered us.
Well, no. I know that's where they are. I do also think there is a massive element of stupidity to it in assuming that they will be able to maintain their power and quality of life when the Irish have been replaced by these new Irishmen, because I think that one of the greatest ideological follies of our age is the blank slate, which all of these moves do seem to be operating off of, that you do have an interchangeable diaspora of people across the world, the global citizens, who can be interchanged with one another without any consequences. That's stupid to me. But also, it's knowingly evil.
You're right. The original premise is stupid and evil. But also, the fact that they're like, okay, but we're just going to define the law in what is essentially an undefined manner, so we can make it anything we want. Well, then, and the fact that they can get away with it, that is clever. Like, they've got one over on everyone. I mean, it's the same in Britain. So
I mean, it's not clever. I equate it, if I was to do an analogy. You're the family stuck in the corner while a retard, an actual mentally retarded person, is waving a gun about, firing it wildly. Yeah, you can't do anything about it, but it's not because the retard has outmaneuvered you in any clever way. I think they may have done it. They've got the gun. It's just because they managed to somehow pick up a gun.
How did they get a gun? No, I haven't got a gun. No, they've definitely outmaneuvered me here.
The retard may have outmaneuvered you.
He's outmaneuvered all of us.
It's simple, but I don't think it's idiotic.
Anyway,
we're opening way too many things. But now
too many
we have
layers of the onion.
No, we have to peel another layer of the onion of deception and talk about how they're rewarding friends, and talk about what they tried to do this March 2024 with the two referendums. Now, a lot of people examined these two referendums in isolation, and we did segments, and I said that we need to see what both of them together, what the Irish government tried to do by passing both of them. So essentially, what they tried to do is the following. The Irish Constitution has a traditional definition of the family, and also has the provision that there can be economic help to mothers.
Okay.
So that mothers don't get forced to work if they face economic adversity. So what they tried to do with these two referendums is the following. Referendum number 1 was the family referendum. They wanted to change the definition of the family. Yet again deceive people about what the family is, and say that family is the traditional family plus any social formation that can be seen as a durable relationship, which obviously it's entirely arbitrary.
Yep.
And the second referendum was about the care amendment, and they wanted to say it's not just mothers who are going to receive economic help, but any member of a family, which means any member of any durable relationship. So what they did, and the Irish voted very correctly, and the first referendum was rejected. I think it was a double score. Yeah. 2/3 were against it. Yeah. So around 67%, and more than that.
I mean,
the care bill, it was more like a triple score. It was close to 75% rejected it. Only 25% said yes.
That's good that they rejected it, but it astounds me that these are even put up to vote in the first place. It's like trying to legislate gravity.
No, what they tried to do is really simple. They wanted to give.
They wanted to open. They wanted to discussion.
They wanted to be able to give money to anyone they wanted, by just saying that you're a member of a durable relationship, and you're supported.
Trafficked a child,
and they're making it seem legitimate. Yeah. So all of this, introducing subjective elements to legislation, it's all a matter of covering arbitrary authority with the appearance of legitimacy, and they want to do it because they want to increase the power.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're doing, you can follow Connor's series, Tomlinson Talks. Here he talks about how hope not hate might have broken the law. And if you want to see what else we're putting out, you can always follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.